welcome to the 100 Acre Wool Knitting Podcast. My name is Bella and I am a knitter and knitwear designer based in Northern California in the US. And this is a podcast where we come to talk about knitting and fiber arts and my knitwear design process, sometimes also some sewing thrown in there and maybe spinning or other crafty things of that sort. Also been getting into crochet recently, so sometimes that makes an appearance. But today is going to be mostly about knitting. I have quite a few finished objects. It's been a while since I've been able to sit down for a podcast here, a bit longer than my normal once a month sort of schedule I have going here to update you all on what's going on. We have some finished objects, some new finished designs that I'm excited to share with you, and also a crochet project that I finished that I think is just so adorable, and some whips. And then towards the end I've made some yarn acquisitions for new designs that I'm going to be working on, and also some sneak peeks for those designs. So stay tuned to the end for that. And the reasoning for the bit of a later podcast than normal, my partner and I got sick, got the vid. I don't want to say the whole thing because I don't know if YouTube does something weird with that, but you know what I'm talking about. So that was not fun. He got it first and then I got it, and it was just, it takes you out for a couple, like 2 solid weeks. We were just out. We're both pretty much better now. I just have like a lingering cough, just have to cough every once in a while, but for the most part we're better. And we think we actually got it on our anniversary trip, which also has happened since the last podcast. So we had our anniversary and we went to a adorable little beach town that's in California as well, a bit south from where we live, and it's called Cambria. We love Cambria. We've been there quite a few times, and it's just a lovely place that we like to go back to again and again. It's a really sleepy beach town, but really beautiful, and lots of beautiful places to see and hike. So yes, we love Cambria, but we think that's where we got sick because there wasn't really anything else we were doing, but who knows. So anyway, that's kind of the update and where we've been. But yeah, we're doing better now. So I'm excited for the fall time now. I am in full swing fall knitting. I was looking at my projects and like designs that I have ideas for and like coming up, and it is very much in the fall sort of color palette and feels. So I'm really excited about that. But I will first get into our first finished object of the day. So this is a design of mine. This is the Light Gems wrap that I have not shown finished on a podcast yet because I finally finished my sample since the last one. This design has already been published, actually about a week ago was when it was launched, and I'm so happy with how it turned out. It is an all-over cable and lace shawl, so it's very airy, very light, very drapey. And for this particular sample, I used a 100% wool Honor Air, but I think with the stitch pattern, and then once it was blocked, it really opened up and became super drapey and light, and also for the fact of the lace in there. So it's very just playful and fun. And I think it just turned out very elegant. I'm really happy with it. And the testers all had a really fun time. You can see their projects as well on Ravelry and on their Instagrams if they've posted it. But yeah, I'm just so happy with how it turned out. It's going to be so warm and cozy. It's finally starting to get cooler here. It's a cloudy day and it's going to be in the 70s for a while, which for us is cool. 70s Fahrenheit. Yeah, so I'm excited to be breaking out the woolens, and I'm just so happy this design is finally finished and published and out. So if you are interested in picking up this pattern, I will have the link to it down below, as well as the link to my full Ravelry, which is always down there in the description of my videos. So yeah, Light Gems wrap. And it is just full of lace and cables. I'm hoping with the light behind me, if it's not blowing it out, but it's kind of a cool look to see the light coming through it. But yeah, fun cables and lace. And it is fully charted in the pattern. There is no possible way I could have written all these out, all the instructions out row by row. So you have to read charts. That's one thing, but I think it's a labor of love. I'm really happy with how this turned out, and I know it's already going to get a lot of wear. I personally am a big wearer of shawls and wraps and things because I get cold and hot and warm and cold, like very temperature, I don't know. I'm always getting cold and then warm again, so I have to have something that I can easily throw on and take off and things like that. And I'm also excited to wear this kind of like a scarf because it is long enough that you can just bundle it up around your neck and just stay cozy that way. Maybe put a coat over it, and it's kind of a more fun than just your regular maybe stockinette scarf or something like that. It has a little more sparkle to it. Yeah, but that's the Light Gems wrap, and it's finally finished. Yeah, this one especially really turned out beautifully after the blocking. If you are not a fan of blocking at this point, or if you don't really see like what's the point, blocking sounds like something. It sounds like something special. Blocking is really just washing your piece and then letting it lay flat and maybe stretching it out a little bit. I have fuzz on my anyway. Yes, I would highly recommend blocking. It really makes your knits turn into a very like professional looking piece. And I'm sure you would wash your knits anyway, so you're probably doing blocking anyway at some point, but especially like right after you finish the knit, it really helps it turn into its final state, I feel. Like it just makes the fabric relax and become what it wants to be, whereas right after you've knit it, it's very tense and it's not quite the right fabric yet. It's like when you're weaving. I haven't actually woven anything before, but from the videos and things I have learned from online and other makers is that you have to wash your weaves after you do them because the fabric isn't quite right yet right off the loom. So anyway, block your knits. It's such a magical process. The before and after is always like, it just makes me so happy. Okay, anyway, the next finished object is my velvet moss vest. I'm finally done with it. I am so happy. I was kind of waiting on this for a while. This has been in the works for most of this year, I think. I think I started it in either February or March was when I had the idea for this and was swatching and playing with things, and I was really excited about it. But then some life things happened and, you know, time went on and it turned into late spring into summer, and I didn't feel like this was a very summery. I personally didn't want to knit it in summer, so I didn't want to put it out to you all to knit it in summer because I feel like it wasn't the time. However, I do feel like it is a very fall and winter appropriate garment, so I finally finished my version. It is all blocked, all the ends are woven in, it is completely finished, and again, this one really bloomed in the blocking. It just, the fabric feels so much nicer. I already loved the look of the fabric, but the fabric was a bit dense and more fluffy than I was expecting from swatching and things like that. But after blocking, it has just turned into such a drapey garment, which I was really like surprised about. Quite drapey, a really nice flow to it, and just all the shapes. It just turned into exactly what I was imagining from the beginning. It is an all-over herringbone stitch, but I changed the stitch a bit from how it is normally done with one color, but I wanted it to look like actual woven herringbone fabric with two colors. So I'm not sure if you'll be able to see, maybe I should get closer, but it has two colors going on, and there's just that subtle herringbone sort of texture to it. It's a really fun knit to actually do. I think it's a fun actual like knitting process, and it's all over mosaic knitting. So even though it's 2 colors, you are only ever holding one at a time. So that also is a fun thing. And yeah, lots of texture, lots of interest. And with this particular sample, I used a color shifting yarn. Maybe you can tell it's a very slight color shift, very subtle sort of color shift, but it does kind of change. And this was my own hand spun yarn, which comparable yarns, I made the hand spun. I tried to make it like exactly the spin cycle dyed in the wool. I actually like compared the grist and everything, and I feel like it's a very comparable like weight and feel and the makeup of the fiber. So I think for the pattern that will be kind of my top recommendation as a comparable, because this was my own hand spun, which you can't buy unfortunately. So yeah, I think I will say if you're going for, if you're not a spinner yourself, and if you're going for a similar look with the color shiftingness, then maybe the spin cycle, or I'll be looking up some other comparable yarns for that. But yeah, that was one of the colors used. That was kind of the contrast color. And then for the main color, for this kind of mossy green, that was Honor Ok Air Nutiden yarn. And I held it with a strand of silk mohair. I thought that would be another fun texture to play with and another fun color variation option. I always love when you put a fingering weight yarn or any sort of weight of yarn with a strand of silk mohair or Surrey alpaca or something like that. And if the colors are slightly different, you get a brand new color with them combined. So I just thought that would be a fun kind of option for playing with color. So yeah, and the kind of inspiration of the name, I think I've talked about this in previous podcasts, but during the fall and winter, during the rainy season, we get a lot of moss on our trees here. It gets very mossy, lots of lichen and things of that sort, and I just think it's beautiful. The moss just, I don't know, I love the look of moss, and to me it looks like green velvet, like a really lovely deep green velvet. So that was the inspiration behind this design, velvet moss. So yeah, kind of cold, fall, winter, rainy, tweedy vibes is kind of the idea for this one. So yeah, and like I said, it is done, and I am so excited. It is finally ready for test knitting. So I will be making the test knit call through my Instagram page next week. I don't have an exact date yet, but it will be next week sometime. And yeah, so if you would like to apply to be a test knitter for this one, then make sure to keep an eye out for my Instagram. I will have that linked down below as well. But I'm 100 Acre Wool on all my platforms, so that's an easier way to find me. But yeah, you can apply to be a test knitter. And like all of my garment patterns, this will come in 9 different sizes, up to I think about a 62-inch bust is normally how far it goes up to, and down to a 28-inch bust to 62-inch bust is usually the normal measurements, unless there's positive ease or negative ease. And on the topic of test knitting, I did want to kind of bring up a conversation topic here. I have been now designing patterns for 2 years. I think it's been 2 years now, about, not to the date, but about 2 years. And I've done test knits for all of my patterns, chosen test knitters, had people apply, you know, the whole process. And something I have started to notice is that unfortunately, it seems that sometimes people apply to the test knit and they'll be accepted for the test knit, and I will invite them to our Slack channel. That's how I run my test knits, is through Slack. I think it's a really great way for it to be secure, but also everyone can see the whole conversation going on, so it's not just emails back and forth. I think that would be crazy. At least for me, that wouldn't work. So all my test knits are run through Slack, which is a messaging platform. It's almost like the Ravelry chat. What is that called? The Ravelry group, I think is called, when you have a tab. But those, I believe, aren't secure. Anyway, the point is, I will invite, all the test knitters to the Slack channel, and I post the pattern in the Slack channel, so it's available for everyone to download and start knitting from. And people will, knitters will confirm that they want to be part of the test knit, so they've been added to the Slack channel, and okay, so we're all going to get started on the test knit. And then, a couple weeks, couple months into the test knit, and I haven't heard anything from them, I haven't seen anything, and then the publish comes, and still, it's like it was ghosted. So I wanted to kind of bring this up to everyone, because I think this has happened for other designers as well, that we kind of, at this point, the way that I'm functioning is I kind of factor in that there's going to be people that ghost the test knit, like after they've been chosen. So I kind of have to factor in, I have to choose more testers, because I think, I know that some will not actually do the test knit, which is disappointing, I think. And I understand. I totally understand. Life happens. Things happen. Sickness or family issues or work issues come in the way, and that's totally fine. I totally understand that. And I have also had test knitters communicate that to me, and I really appreciate that, because it's good to know what's going on. That's totally fine. I'm not saying anything about that. I'm just talking about, this is my intellectual property that I'm giving to you as a test knitter, and I would just appreciate some respect in, I've spent my time on this work, and I would just like it to be respected, and if something comes up, I would just like to know about it, kind of a thing. I don't know. I was just talking about this with my partner, and it just seemed kind of a sad reality at this point. So I don't really know what to do about it. I don't want to start enforcing, you have to be this exact way, or else I don't know. Anyway, I would love to know your opinion on the subject. Whether you think that I'm crazy and that's just part of the process and deal with it, or if it's also, people should communicate. Whatever the matter may be, if you can't do the test knit, that's fine. I would just like to know about it. Anyway, apply to be a test knitter. If you would like to test knit, please do. I don't want to sway anyone from not doing the test knit because something may happen in their life. Anyway. Back to the knitting. Velvet Moss Fest. I will have the link to the test knit on my Instagram when it's available. So, let's see. I guess that's, oh no, I have my crochet finished object. So, this little girl, Maybelle the cow, I think is her name. This is a crochet project that I finally finished. My first ever amigurumi sort of crochet project. I am so happy with how she turned out, and this was just a fun little project for me, very much just purely for the joy of my heart. My partner had bought me, for my birthday this year, my partner had bought me this Amigurumi Treasures book, so this is where the pattern came from. And I think she's on the front, yeah. There's the little Maybelle, and here's mine. So love this book. It's adorable. I don't have any children or any friends with children at this point that I would give this to, but I really just wanted to kind of try my hand at amigurumi and just practice my crochet some more, and with really small needles, and not needles, sorry, knitter talk coming in. Really small crochet hook, and I just think she came out so cute. I know if I have children in the future, maybe a little girl, this will go to her. But yeah, just a really fun process. I used knitted on yarn because I have a ton of that in my stash, and in multiple colors. I didn't have to buy anything extra to do this, so I just for me personally, it was just working from my stash, and that way she is all 100% wool, but there is polyfill in the middle, because since it's so small, I was worried about using scraps and having like different colors pop out, and also since she's white, I didn't want it to, I don't know, show through the fabric. So I did use polyfill as the stuffing, but yeah, it was really, really fun to do. And then the seaming, I think all the seaming at the end was actually my favorite part, because then you got to see her fully come together, because you do the two legs separately, you do the dress separately, each arm is separate, and then the whole head is separate, and each ear and each horn at the top. So there's a lot of seaming to like put it all together in the end, but you get to see her come to life, and it's actually a pretty quick seaming process. The instructions in the book were super clear. I've never done amigurumi before this, and I thought I never could, because I had some amigurumi books in the past. They didn't make any sense to me. Maybe being a more proficient knitter, though, maybe that helps with understanding crochet patterns as well. But anyway, I digress. Yeah, she's so cute. So yeah, would highly recommend if you're a crocheter or would like to be, would like to try your hand at amigurumi. These are adorable little creatures. And there's even some more on the back. The next one I want to make is this little shrew here in the corner. Little Sherlock Holmes. So cute, so cute. So that was a great little just fun project to have on the side. And I put it down for quite a few months, so I felt, it's time to finish. It's time to actually not have so many whips just sitting around. So yeah. Okay, I think now we're into work in progress. I am still working on my long sleeve version of my Amoretta blouse pattern. If you have seen the podcast before this one, yes. If you've seen the podcast before this one, then I think I have shown you my finished Amoretta blouse, which is another design I have going. It is actually almost done with test knitting at this point, and it's going to be released on September 27th. I am very, very excited about that one. It's been, again, a long time coming, but a lot of work and love has gone into the pattern. So, and there's a lot of variations and things and such. So yes, there's also a long sleeve version in the pattern. So this is my long sleeve version. As you can see, it's very fall vibes. I love this green, this deep kind of brown, mossy green sort of a color. I just adore this color. So I had to make a long sleeve version of the Amoretta blouse in this color. So it's got a little bell sleeve, a little bit of a bell sleeve, but it's still more fitted up towards the underarm, and then it gets larger towards the bottom. And then the same adorable little sweetheart neckline, which is kind of consistent through all the versions. And then I also did the rib edging that is in the pattern. So my first sample, the blue one that I shared with you last time, was a crochet scallop edge, but this one I did the ribbing edge. And then on the bottom, I also have the folded over edge hem on the bottom. I thought that would be a nice look and not have ribbing on the bottom. So that is the folded over hem option, also in the pattern. So yeah, I have just about finished the right sleeve, and I am going on the left sleeve now. And yeah, the sleeves are going super quickly. Since it is just stockinette in the round on my 9-inch circulars, I really personally love knitting sleeves like this. It's just, it can be my mindless project that I have going. So I am really enjoying this one. I spent a lot of time on this sleeve when we were driving back from Cambria. And just easy car knitting, easy sort of, yeah, mindless fun stuff for me. I know it can be a slog sometimes, but anyway, yeah, so the other sleeve is almost done, and then the whole thing will be complete, and I'll block it, and I'm so excited to see the final version of this, and it will be immediately in use for fall. I'm already having fun with my blue one, but I can't wear it yet because I always like to keep my samples nice before the release date so that for photos or video or anything like that, I want to keep it looking nice. So I'm not letting myself wear the blue one yet. Anyway, I think that is that my only whip? I thought I had another one. Anyway, I'll mention what I'm wearing really quickly since I think I forgot to. What I'm wearing today is two of my patterns, just kind of funny accident with that. This is my Primaveral cardigan. This is an all-over cable knit cardigan with, again, a little bit of a scallopy edge. I love that sort of a detail, but in the pattern there's also a double knit edge if you want to. Again, some little bell sleeves and just a really cozy little button-down cardigan. And underneath I have my champagne tank. This was my naturally hand-dyed yarn, and yeah, just some fun little ruffles at the bottom and some lace, and it's very nice for summer. It's very breathable, and with the fiber content, it's definitely doable on a hot day. Whereas this sweater is definitely not. But like I said, we're finally getting colder, and it's a cold, chilly, overcast morning, so I'm able to finally wear this. Okay, I think we'll get into acquisitions now and a little sneak peek for a new design. So I placed an order from the Woolly Thistle for some new yarn. I have been working on this design for, I think I had the idea for this design last year. I think December probably was when I was starting to make sketches and figure out my swatching and things of that sort. It was going to be a mosaic knitting shawl with a lot of different colors. I wanted it to be friendly for using up scraps. I had a very specific color palette in mind, at least for my sample, so I wasn't going to use scraps because I don't have the colors in my stash. But for knitters, I thought it would be great as a stash buster, scrap buster sort of a project, because it will use a lot of colors. And I had purchased some yarn at the time. I purchased some Knitting for Olive wool, and I started swatching and trying to figure out how to bring my idea of what I was envisioning the shawl to look like into reality, and nothing was working. It wasn't quite right for what I was going for the vibe, for the stitch pattern, for the knitting process, because that's also very important, especially with like a bigger shawl. You have to enjoy knitting it. It can't be a slog. So with all the different colors, and I was trying to figure out how to get the motif right and just balance everything. It took me a while of figuring it out in my brain and also doing swatches, and I finally figured out or decided upon this needs to be a more woolly wool, a more rustic wool, at least for my sample, for what I'm going for. Of course, as a knitter, you can pick any sort of yarn that you want, ever, always. I feel like I need to say this all the time. You don't have to use the called for yarn in a pattern. At least that's my opinion. That's my opinion. I know some people will disagree and say, you know, there is something about using the called for yarn in the pattern. There's a better likelihood that it will turn out exactly like the sample that you're seeing, since the weight of the yarn, everything about the yarn that they're using is exactly the same. So you have a better chance of getting on gauge, and the drape of the fabric will be exactly the same. The color, if you really like the color of the sample, will be exactly the same. So I understand there's definitely a place for using the called for yarn, but I think it's also a fun time, a fun just, you know, knitting is creative. Why not be creative with your yarn choices too, and use what you want to use? So anyway, I always suggest that for all my patterns too. Use what you want to use. Anywho, I made an order from the Woolly Thistle, so I picked up my favorite hardy yarn that comes in a billion different colors. So this design is all going to be in Jamieson and Smith. They're 4-ply woolly, you know, their classic sort of color work base, I think, is what most people use this for. They have, seriously, a bazillion colors. I don't actually know how many, but I believe it's hundreds, if not 100, or it's a lot. It's a lot. And they also have a lot of variegated colorways, which is a personal favorite of mine. So they mix their colors pre-spinning so that it really, it's like an all over even variegation, but it's more lively, and I don't know, I think it's more fun sometimes than a solid dye, which was what was kind of the look I was going for this particular pattern. And I also really wanted, I knew this shawl would be kind of a more labor of love kind of a thing with how big it is, and or how involved it is. So I wanted to also choose a yarn that I know from experience is a really well-wearing yarn. I have my yellow cardigan in this yarn, and I think it is my best worn yarn as far as how many times I've worn it, and also how it's wearing. Like, it looks the most like new, if that makes sense. So I wanted to use a yarn that I know will hold up well over time for this pattern. So that was kind of my thought process behind this one, and I'm really happy with how it's going now. So I started swatching again, and I think we're finally at a point that I like the swatch, and I'm happy with how it's going. So this is my little swatch slash one piece of what I'm going to be working on. So you may, this may look like a quilt block to you, and that is correct. It is going to be a very quilt-inspired sort of a shawl with lots of colors, and yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of fun to work on. I really loved the actual knitting of this swatch, as opposed to all my other swatches that I was trying. If you want to see my original swatch, actually, my very first swatch I think I did of this idea was back in my 2023 knitting roundup from last year. I think I posted that in like January was when I originally had this idea and started swatching and stuff. But anyway, yeah, I think I'm really happy with how it's looking now, and I think it's ready to continue on with this. And I don't want to spoil too much about it yet, but it is going to be quilt blocks kind of inspired mosaic knitting, as you can see, and there will be some seaming, but I think it's gonna be like a labor of love. I think it'll be more of, at least for me, like kind of ritual. I have mathed out how many days it would take me to finish all the blocks as I'm imagining, and I think I'm gonna start making one of these every day, and it's gonna be a really nice bite-sized little ritual every day to be working on this, and will bring me a lot of joy in this fall. So, and I'll be getting to play with all the fall wool colors, so I'm very excited about it. Yeah, so that's kind of my final swatch, I think. I was also trying with some other needle sizes and just trying to get the pattern exactly where I wanted it. This one was a little funky, and I thought the gauge was a bit too open, kind of too holy. And then I was playing with some textures, because there may also be some textures in there. Yeah, I am very excited about this one. Yeah, I'm excited to finally be working on something with so many colors. I just adore color, and I feel like I have to hold myself back sometimes with how many colors I put into a pattern. Not to go overboard, but this one I'm letting myself play, and it's gonna be like a quilt. Lots of colors, lots of fun, lots of texture. So anyway, that is kind of a new pattern going. And then also in that woolly thistle order, I picked up finally some Plotalopi for me to play with and try, and I haven't gotten to work with it yet. I really want to. But I'm trying to figure out right now what I want to make with it for my kind of play project with this yarn. Yeah, I've been meaning to pick this up for so long, and I figured, you know, this is the time. I'm making an order anyway. I might as well. So Pulatalopi, if you haven't heard of it before, this is an unspun yarn, 100% wool yarn. It is very rusticy. It is not very soft in my opinion. I am a lover of unspun yarns. My favorite is Nutiden yarn by Onorok Air. I think they make gorgeous colors. They have a really wonderful process of how they create the wool. All of it is Swedish sourced wool, and it's beautiful. But I've also been wanting to try other unspun yarns because there are some others out there. I've also tried Wool Dreamers. Their unspun yarn is really nice as well. I actually really enjoy their unspun yarn as well. It's a lot more lofty and airy. And now I'm finally trying Pulatalopi, and I really enjoy the color and the look of it. The texture is the roughest of the unspun yarns that I have felt, but it's also with that the strongest. So I can tell just by pulling on this. Normally unspun yarn, you know, is very easily broken. Wow, sorry, excuse me. Unspun yarn is normally very easily broken, but this is quite a bit stronger than both Nutiden and Manchalopi, so that will be interesting. Even pulling from a long distance, not just at the same staple length, so I think that's a really good plus for this one. And I got two colors. I thought this red looked really beautiful online and figured it could be good for some holiday knitting, so maybe that's what I'll be doing with this. And I forget exactly, they have quite a few beige colors, but I will find the name and I'll put it on the screen here if you're curious. It's a really beautiful beige. I do really enjoy this color. A warm but also gray beige. It's like a gray beige with rust thrown in there. So I think it's a really beautiful beige. But anyway, I will be soon, once I get to play with this some more, I will be putting together a unspun yarn kind of roundup and tips and tricks video, just comparing unspun yarns and just my thoughts and tips. If you haven't tried it before, if you have and maybe you've struggled with it, because it is a bit of a different knitting process than a normal spun yarn, since it is most of the time a lot more prone to breakage, less, you know, strong. There's some tips that you can kind of glean to help with that, so that it doesn't break as easily and things of that sort. But anyway, I think that's everything for today. No, we have one more yarn acquisition. In Cambria, I was so excited and pleasantly surprised. There's a yarn store in Cambria, California. So I definitely made sure to stop in there and see what they had. They had a lot of really beautiful yarns, and they had especially a ton of one of my favorite hand-dyed yarn companies, which is Manos del Uruguay. And they had quite a few bases and a lot of colors in those bases, so it was really fun going up and feeling everything and seeing all the yarns. The way they had it laid out, I should have taken some video, I forgot to, but the way they had it laid out was just wonderful. You could really go up and feel, they had the skeins unfurled and hanging so that you could see all the colors in a rainbow order of that base, and then you could also feel the yarn right there. Because it was unfurled, you could actually feel what it feels like. So anyway, I really enjoyed the yarn store, and it had a lot of fun in there, and picked up some yarns. So I had never seen this particular base from Manos del Uruguay, I think. So it is their, wow, I can't read that. I don't know what that says, but this is the label, if you're curious. I hope that's in focus. Seneua? I'm sorry, I don't know what that would be. Anyway, It is a 60% baby alpaca and 40% Pima cotton base. So I thought it would be perfect for summer. I purchased this a little too late, so I didn't immediately start knitting something with it, but I think it will be a really great summer sort of a base. Yeah, seemed very light and drapey because of the alpaca, and then the cotton will be more breathable. So I think this would be a good summer base. So yes, I probably won't be casting on anything with this until the springtime. I think this lovely little yellow, little butter yellow would be nice for that. And this is also a very unusual color for me, how bright this is. And the fact that it's yellow, I feel like I don't work with yellow very often. But my partner was encouraging me to try something new and get out of my comfort zone. So we purchased this yarn, and I think it'll be cute. I think it'll be nice, a nice little summer yarn. So we'll see what this becomes. Keep an eye out. This will probably be happening the following spring, in the following spring. And I also picked up this really cool knitting contraption that you can put your cake of yarn on and take it with you if you want to stand and knit or walk and knit. I've really been wanting to do that more often, and a lot of times it doesn't work for my projects if I'm using like an unspun cake or something with multiple colors like I'm doing with this next project I showed you. Sometimes it's not going to work because I'm not using an actual yarn cake. However, when I do have a yarn cake, I will most definitely be using this, and you can just slip the yarn cake on here. This metal piece just opens up, so you can take this off. You can slip your yarn cake on that piece of wood and it'll stay there securely for you, but then it also spins in here so that while you're walking you can just easily spin your yarn off the cake and be knitting with it. And I've used like just a simple basket before, but it'll always get caught on things and it won't roll nicely, so I figured this would be nice to try. So yeah, I'll definitely be updating you all once I get a chance to try this out on a walk. I think that would just be so great. Probably a pair of socks would be great to do, because then that would be really, like, the knitting itself would be really light and you'll have your cake of yarn there. I think that would be a great way to kind of, you know, to do two things at once, go on a walk and knit at the same time, because I don't know, at least for me, I'm like, I love knitting, but it does require you to be pretty sedentary most of the time. So I think it would be great to be able to still be knitting, but get in some physical activity. So that was kind of the idea of why I wanted that. Yeah, I'm sorry my voice is going. I still have a bit of sickness in me apparently, but I think that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed and maybe found something that is inspiring, maybe something you want to make in the future, or yarn that looks interesting to you. Yeah, thank you so much for being here and for watching. And if you're curious about any of my test knits or want some more information on new things coming, I would highly recommend checking out my Instagram account. That has updates more often, and I'll always post my test knit calls on there. That's like the quickest way to know when there's a test knit call. So yeah, I think that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have fun with whatever project you are working on, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Happy knitting. Bye bye.